And welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts. Bob Tuke, former chair of the state Democratic Party, and syndicated conservative talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome, guys. A lot going on. The president called the vote in the Senate's Finance Committee to get the Baucus bill, the health care reform bill, out, a huge move forward, yet is still a long way to go. There's still a lot of disagreement on both sides regarding that proposal. But is this that step that gets it going, that's the building block, as they said, that begins to produce something that will become eventually the bill that they both houses vote on?
I think so. And it was absolutely critical, obviously, that it get out of the Senate Finance Committee. And so even though it's not in the form that lots of people want it in, nonetheless, it's out there. It'll now get fully debated. It'll get formulated in the Senate. And then some version of the House bill will pass, and then it'll go into conference, and we'll actually finally have some kind of reform. Some people are calling it insurance reform, not health care reform. I think there's some accuracy there. We still don't know what it's going to look like. It's my personal hope that our Congressman, Jim Cooper, has a lot to say about what it finally looks like.
I think the big problem in the Senate bill, I think Bob's right, that it has to get out of there to move ahead. And frankly, I think they should have killed it where it was, because it's not even a bill. They have a couple of 100-page synopsis. How can you vote on legislation they've not even put in legislative format? As two lawyers here, I think we could acknowledge the devil's in the details in legislation. They're not putting the details out, and now they want to rush this thing through after coming out from behind closed doors before people will have a chance to debate it, look at it, and understand it. I think this is a really horrific process that is likely to produce horrific legislation.
As you said, they're kind of building from the ground up, but I've already heard some concern and some complaints about this proposal, criticism saying it puts back in coverage for, quote, illegal aliens, it puts back in money that would go to abortion funding. I haven't read the whole thing, honestly. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but as you said, this is kind of a work in progress, so if those things are in there, the president has said that will not happen.
Well, it'll be really interesting to see what the final product is, and it is in the process right now of actually being drafted. And Steve's right. I mean, it's been a very peculiar process that they've gone through to create it. But it will ultimately come to the floor of the Senate in the form of legislation. It will be carefully analyzed, and we still won't know what it's going to be until conference.
Yeah, of all the crazy things in the Senate version, I've been saying for a long time that if you like the way you get treated at the Department of Motor Vehicles or at the Department of Transportation when you're getting a license plate or a driver's license, you're going to love this new Obamacare health care plan. Interestingly, on page 19 of the Senate synopsis bill, among the other places you'll be able to sign up for this health insurance, the Department of Motor Vehicles is being mandated. So it really is going to be DMV health care.
As we talked a little bit about last week, Governor Bredesen is watching this carefully. He's on the governor's committee, the Democratic side, watching this happen, and he does not want an unfunded mandate to come to the state where the state has to pick up the cost of this down the line. He's now worried about what it would do to Medicaid, that may increase the funding that has to come out of Tennessee. So there's a lot of unanswered questions about what the state's role is going to be.
A lot, and one of the things that's easy for the Congress to do is dump on the states some of this by virtue of Medicaid. In Tennessee, it's
that can get expensive really fast.
Very expensive, and that expense shows up years from now. Not so much early, but years from now. And I'm really glad Governor Bredesen is so keenly on top of that, and also Congressman Cooper is. So, I believe that we'll come out of this responsibly. One good thing, though, I must say, I go to the VA because I have a war-related hearing loss, and I've been in there just recently, and it's really changed. I mean, it really was good, I'm happy to say. It was user-friendly, and the service was wonderful. So I'm hoping maybe that's the kind of government care that we could have as a small option.
The big problem is the way they're playing the money game, I think, right now. And they're trying to tweak it and twist it to get it down to less than $1 trillion so they can meet what the president has said, that it will not add to the deficit. But there are a couple of problems. First of all, they're counting all the savings they're going to get from Medicare fraud, waste, and abuse being eliminated, but there's no indication they're actually going to achieve that before they put the plan into place. Also, they're counting the first 10 years of this plan, despite the fact it doesn't go into play for about 3 or 4 years. They start counting revenue before they have expenditures. The second 10 years, this thing goes to about $1.8 to $2.5 trillion. The numbers don't add up, and unless they push the cost to the states in the form of Medicaid increases that the governor says will be over $783 million just for Tennessee,
right,
they can't make the numbers add up. For taxpayers, whether it's our federal tax bill going up, whether it's our state tax bill going up, this is going to hit us right in the pocketbooks, and that doesn't even count the premium increases that the insurance industry is now pegged at $4,000 per family. This is going to break the American taxpayer.
Now, I think that if we don't do it, the financial result is much worse, and that's why we have to have this reform. And I think the insurance companies made a giant mistake when they promised to be greedy about this by raising premiums, and they're going to wind up paying for that, I think, in the form of some kind of government option to make them play fair.
Well, what's going to cost the insurance companies, and there seems to be agreement, is the elimination of this denying people coverage for pre-existing conditions.
Right, and that needs to stop. And now that's something that Republicans agree with Democrats
yes.
about, and so they're going to lose that loophole that they've been living off of all these years. And it's my hope that the insurance companies will wake up and start playing like fair-minded citizens instead of the way they've been playing, which is like greedy robbers.
Well, there are a lot of things we do agree on, and I think that's my sense, is that we ought to pass what we all agree on that would dramatically reduce the cost. Let's put in the ability to buy insurance across state lines the same way I can buy car insurance. Let's create more pools for small business, for independent business owners, the same way that unions and others have the capacity to create these large insurance pools. There's a lot of things we agree on. Why don't we fix the system with what we agree on rather than imposing things that are going to break the system?
Here in Tennessee, a little followed special election this week. The Republican Pat Marsh wins in the 62nd district. It was a Democratic district. He defeated Ty Cobb. This puts the number for GOP control in the House at 51-48. This is important in that the Speaker was that 50th Democrat, or Republican rather, and when he
I think you were right.
This puts the GOP in solid control of both houses.
It does, but what's really interesting is apparently a number of Republicans think Williams did a pretty good job last year, and so I've heard from some of my friends that he might just get
reelected
as a Republican.
Well, it depends on what the numbers are after the 2010 elections.
Right.
This election isn't going to change that, although Republicans can shift the dynamic of committees. They can
and
shift
issues.
who's the Speaker, and that can certainly change here in the next couple of months when the session begins again. What this really, I think, sends a bigger message is that the Obama coattails are not good in this country right now. On Tuesday, Republicans also won a special election in Oklahoma in a seat that had not been in Republican hands for over 26 years. There have been about 6 special elections that Republicans have won in lifetime Democrat districts in Delaware and Texas, all over the country. And for the first time in 26 years this week, Republicans took the Albuquerque mayor's position, again, always in Democrat hands. So it's not just how this affects Tennessee. It's showing a little bit of a trend line, and I think Bob and I would both agree you'll want to watch Virginia and New Jersey over the next few weeks in those gubernatorial off-year elections as another indication of how things are playing politically. After the Marsh race, I'll have to say I think Democrats are going to be looking back to the good old days when Bob Tuke was their state chairman.
Well, I think thank you, Steve. the turnout.
With friends like this, who needs enemies? Right?
The turnout was so small down there that I don't know that we can take much from it in Tennessee. But one of the sort of sad things is that turnout was so small. I really think our citizens need to be paying attention here. Either way. But having so few people vote for who's going to be their representatives is
it's about
not
5,000
good for
6,000
democracy.
total votes, and it decides the control of the House.
Right.
Steve Gill, Bob Tuke, appreciate your insight. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment.